Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak. I'm joined by Ray Clifford and Ralph Sharega, who momentarily went off the air. Now we see Ralph back on.
My camera just.
It is
Looked like it was
Wednesday, March 10th, and I'm recording from the studios in Valley Cottage, New York. Ray is in Marysville, Ohio. Ralph is in Belmont, Mass. Ray is going on a road trip tomorrow to Michigan to scout out a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman.
Could he pay, Ray? Find out what the deal is with him.
I'm going to interview him.
We're going to get a full report. Just a couple of house cleaning. Then we're going to get right to the
Marty, you are the cleanest house. I got to
classic trivia from Ralph Sharega. The cap was established. Of course, I didn't write the number down. I'm going over by memory. 182.5 million, and that translate now. The exact number for Sam Darnold's fifth-year option would be 18.6 million. As all you Jet fans know, Marcus Maye was tagged. We're going to get into some of the other franchise players later. But let's go into right away to the classic trivia, Ralph.
Classic trivia. Since the subject is the du jour is quarterbacking, and notice I threw a little French in for our French fans in Paris.
That's sweet. Yeah.
The question is there are 6 Jet quarterbacks who have started 60 or more games for them. I'll name them for you: Namath, Todd, O'Brien, Vinny Testaverde, Pennington, and Sanchez. By the way, Boomer had about 40. Of those 6 guys, which one had the best winning percentage for the game started?
I'm writing it down. That's a good question.
Can you real quick name them again?
Namath, Todd, O'Brien, Testaverde, Pennington, Sanchez.
Good question, Ralph. I think I got it. Okay.
What would the show be without that line?
All right. We're right at the cusp of a lot of activity. Yesterday at 4:00 was the end of the tagging period.
You're it. Yeah.
And there were a couple of things that, besides Marcus Maye, that I thought were interesting. First of all, one minor thing is that the Jaguars, they tagged their tackle Cam Robinson, which I think is a big surprise. I don't think he's that good. He's not a great pass rusher. But on the flip side, I think that shows you the commitment that the new coach of Jacksonville is making to the offensive line and for Trevor Lawrence. Okay. One thing, Ralph, before we get into this, and I assume you have a list of the players tagged and the important players that weren't tagged, but I just want to mention a few hours ago, the Giants right guard Kevin Zeitler was cut, who I really like. He is like a step below a Pro Bowl player. And
how old is he?
He's 31. They're saving $12 million. I would try to get him for, if they could sign him for 2 or 3 years, if they sign him 3 years, it'll be a 2-year contract. They cut Alex Lewis Van Routen, that's 6.9 and 3.7 million. The reason I like Zeitler is he's one of those players that he plays. In the last 6 years, he's played on 3 teams, the Bengals, Browns, and Giants. He started 95 of 96 games. Last year, he only had 4 penalties. He had let up 2 sacks. He had a 65.9 rating, Pro Football Focus, which I don't pay a lot of attention to with offensive linemen. But if they could sign him, let's say on Thursday, I would cut Van Routen and Alex Lewis on Friday, to be honest with you.
Why wait that long?
Yeah, no, I can't stand those 2 guys. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents about a cut that I really like. But I happen to think he's going to end up either back with Cincinnati, with Green Bay, and an outside shot with Cleveland, and watch Jacksonville might make a play for him. But I think Joe Douglas, he's got to pick up the phone and call him while, this guy might be established in New York.
Yeah, at least he won't have to sell his house. That's the selling point, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah. And like I said, and just so you know, if you said to me, Marty, you seem to really focus on offensive linemen, how would you describe him? I would describe him as a player like Brian Winters, though without the penalties, and he stays on the field.
In other words, nothing like Brian Winters at all.
You know what I'm saying? When
If
Brian
there aren't
Winters,
any penalties, who's that guy? It ain't Brian Winters.
right? But again,
Well, if he came to the Jets, we teach him how to commit penalties.
in other words, he's a better Brian Winters. Okay, a touch below the Pro Bowl. All right, Ralph, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's discuss some of these tags, and we'll get right into it. And then we're going to get into a few other things. Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of glad that these big name receivers got tagged. I didn't really want the Jets to get Allen Robinson, or who's the other dude? I forget.
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin, right? Yeah. Well, Kenny Golladay is still around, right?
Kenny Golladay is not going to be tagged.
He's not going to
not.
be tagged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I kind of like him. He's so big.
Yeah, he's big, and actually, he had 2,000-yard seasons in a row. Is he suspended for 4 games next year? For some reason, I had a feeling. I could be wrong on that.
I haven't heard him.
I'm not sure, but as long as it's the first 4, because the Jets always get off to a bad start anyway. So we need him around to get that get those phony baloney wins at the end of the year.
Right. Okay.
Now, Marcus, yeah.
I was going to say he put up some great numbers, and he's got wonderful size.
Yeah, and he's not that old. I wouldn't mind him. I don't know what he's going to be asking, but
right.
You know, the thing about the Jets is because they are coming off a 2-14 record, they have to pay probably a little more to get these guys. You know, but they have the cap space.
Right.
Now the tight ends, I know you're into Hunter, right, Marty?
I know I was.
I think Ray is more into Hunter.
Oh, you're into him?
Yeah, I like
San Diego.
I mean, I wouldn't overpay for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need him that bad, but if we could get him at the right deal, I think he'd be a great.
I think more a better option maybe financially would be the kid from Tennessee, Jonnu Smith.
Who's he?
He's from Tennessee. He doesn't have quite the numbers that the other guy has, Hunter, but I think there might be some potential there for him to become a better player. I don't want them to cut Herndon. I've been reading about people saying he's going to be cut. He's still on his rookie contract. Is he not?
I can't see him cutting.
Yeah.
Well, Ralph, if they get a guy like Hunter or another guy, do you think they are kind of giving up on Herndon? Or
no, I think they use their tight ends in this offense a lot. You know, Kittle was a big part of the offense on San Francisco. I don't think any of these guys
these days have two tight ends that are pretty prominent in the offense. It's not a one tight end system these days anymore.
No, I think I would like if we get the Smith or someone like that. Along with Herndon, I think that would be a nice pair because, I think Griffin's gone. Brown is probably gone. Our guy Wesco, I don't know, give him another 3 or 4 years. Maybe he'll get a snap.
Get him on the
with the new regime, maybe they'll see something in him. I don't know.
Well, weren't there other players that weren't tagged that were kind of surprises, Ralph?
I don't have my list in front of me.
Well,
not that he was a surprise, but has Zach Ertz gone anywhere? I mean, I know that Philly was going to let him go.
Yeah, he's too old for my taste.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. And also, he's a little injury prone. One player, Ray, I think you might have mentioned him, the offensive tackle from the Panthers, Taylor Morton. Did you?
Yeah, I think did he get tagged?
He got tagged.
Yeah, I thought he did.
Oh, by the way, the Saints, they're doing a pretty good job. They're way over the cap, but they're doing a lot of restructuring. The players are
they haven't cut anybody, and somehow they're under the cap.
Well, they've cut a couple of guys, but still, the players are working with them to restructure the contracts. Leonard Williams was tagged, as everyone knows.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
the Jets don't get anything for that, do they?
I don't
well,
so.
Ray and I were talking about that. I don't think they do. I think that is.
I think it had to be by a certain date. They had to sign him, actually. So I think they did this on purpose. Tag him and then work out a deal, but it's after the date where they owe the Jets anything.
I see. Well, we'll have to get them back for that.
Right. Now they're going to work on a contract with Marcus Maye. I think we're all happy that he's coming back.
Yeah.
He had a very, very good year last
Do you
year.
think they still want to sign him long term?
Well, he's 28.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say yes. I think they do. I just think they need some good players, or maybe they're going to let the dust settle till after the free agent period and maybe after the draft. But I think they'll make an effort. You're going to hear his agent, tweeting.
Yeah. My gut feeling was that they just want him for this year to for the transition, have some veteran guys who are good players. I think I can see them bringing in. There's a guy from Atlanta, Keanu Neal, who played with the defensive coordinator, who's younger and is a physical player. And I feel like, I don't know, do you guys? Why do I read everyone saying that they project Ashton Davis as a strong safety, like in the box? To me, I want him to be a center fielder with his speed.
I don't know. Sometimes when he was blitzing there during the season, he looked really good.
He looked really good, Ralph. Not that he had any blitz. I think he had one blitz, but he just missed on a couple.
Yeah.
His timing was outstanding. And again, this is his first year. So I could see him at either position.
Yeah.
And by the way, as you know, he plays defensive back also. But
Marty mentions this every time.
I love diversity. Players that move around.
Yeah. Like the speed to pretty much do all that.
Like Braden Man Ray at linebacker.
Well, we all love diversity. This is 2021. We love.
Well, I know. Just like I said last week, everyone loves diversity except diversity of ideas. You can't do that. Just
Braden
quickly.
The tackle
very
that cost
profound.
us Trevor Lawrence.
Say that again, Ray.
Braden Mann had the tackle that cost us Trevor Lawrence.
That's true.
Everybody mad at him after that game.
Well, he was let off the hook because they won another game.
Yeah, I know. Supposed to miss him.
But actually, he did us a favor because what's his name? Zach Wilson's going to end up being better than.
Washington tagged Brandon Scherf.
Right, your guy.
So he's out. Well, he was one of them. I was leaning more towards, as you know, Tunney and the center for
the Packers.
Yeah. Packers. So I'm not too upset with that. I think that's about it as far as the tagging goes. And now we're just waiting about a week before the free agent period signs. There's like a non-tampering, tampering period. But believe me, they're talking right now to these guys too.
Why not? Why not?
Ralph, there's one thing I want to tell you. I mentioned to Ray, I was listening to someone supposedly in the know. Apparently, the 49ers have an offer on the table for Sam Darnold.
I'm not surprised because we're going to get to our top three destinations for Sam Darnold. And I also have that hypothetical trade with San Francisco because I really think that's the place he's going to end up if I had to predict.
One guy, a reporter, tweeted that the deal's done already, but then I heard this host say it's not done.
Well, the scenario is, and everyone's pushing that up here too, is that Darnold goes to the 49ers and then Garoppolo goes back to the Patriots. And I could see it like being a second rounder and a second rounder. So for San Francisco, it's basically they trade Garoppolo for Darnold. The Patriots got a second rounder for Garoppolo, so then they pay it back. So it's a very symmetrical thing. It works out for everyone.
All right, let's go. Let's get right to the top three teams we think might be in the market for Sam Darnold. Ralph, before we do that, should we do the percentages first?
Well, we can, yeah.
Let's do the percentages.
Okay.
Because, I'm chomping at the bit if I could.
Yeah, right. This is the highlight of the show other than the trivia question and your answer. But
let me go first this time.
Yay. I think Marty came prepared this time.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Make sure it adds up to 100.
I'm doing it right now. It's like my distribution from my 401k.
I know you're back taking the SATs, Marty.
That's it. All right, here we go. These are the percentage I think is going to happen for the Jets at quarterback. Sam Darnold, there's a 20% chance. Zach Wilson, 75% chance, and Deshaun Watson, 5% chance. That's my feeling. So I'm going pretty heavy on Zach Wilson. I still think Darnold's in it. And Ray, do me a favor, Ray. You got to play psychiatrist for like 15 seconds, all right?
Of who? You or of
For me,
myself?
because I've
That would
known
take longer than 15 seconds.
listen to me, Ray. I've known Ralph for like almost 60 years, right? And
I'm not even 60 years old. What are you
a
talking
lot of
about?
what he says comes true. So I listen to him. I get sold on Zach Wilson. And then Tuesdays, I listen to the Mel Kiper podcast.
And he's still quoting his ratings from 4 years ago. He's so
And Ray,
ridiculous.
he's talking about Zach Wilson's cupcake schedule.
Well,
Help me out
the
here.
whole
Where do I
thing-
go? Do I go with Ralph or do I go with Mel?
Well, I don't think either's wrong. I think Kuiper's taking it based on, a whole season of games. But Ralph's pointing out that he had some good teams mixed in there too. But I mean, overall, that's not the toughest conference they're in. So, I mean, Mel's not 100% wrong, but I think he's he's missing the point of that he did play some good competition during the year too. And if you really look at every conference, I mean, what conference isn't it? Like Alabama, and they act like the SEC is good top to bottom. They got cupcakes all over that conference.
The ACC, my God,
ACC.
Duke and Syracuse, I think they're both 0-10.
The Big Ten, Big Ten used to be Ohio State and Michigan. Now it's Ohio State and a bunch of, also rans.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Marty, what it comes down to is not the name of the team you played, but what the differentiation is between your talent and the talent on the other team. And teams like Ohio State and Clemson, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I'm not going to bash the guy, but man, he's led a charmed life in his whole career. I mean, when has he really had to sweat a game out? All those playoff games were routes, except for the one Clemson Ohio State game. And
the thing about that game was that's the first team that really pressured him, and he looked like
he didn't look that good. Yeah,
he looked normal.
He looked like and he hasn't hardly broken a sweat in the last 2 years in these ACC games. They were silly games. And to a degree, the same thing with Fields, though Fields had a few struggles this year. A few teams gave them some pushback. But I like the idea of having a quarterback, not just Zach Wilson, who's been in games where he's been under duress, where he's had to move the team late in the game. It's you get to see what a guy's made at.
All right, Ralph, give us your percentages now.
The percentages would be 90 Wilson, 5 Darnold, 5 Watson.
Okay. Already,
it's just because it's so easy to add those numbers. That's the only reason I picked them.
Ralph has an order, and he ordered 1,000 Zach Wilson rookie cards.
Well, the funny thing is Seattle, they want to trade their Wilson, and I hear these trades for they get the Jets' second pick, and the reason is they don't have to make a new jersey for the guy.
Oh, that's right.
Give him the same number.
They won't give him the same number. All right, Ray, what are your percentages?
All right, just to make you guys happy, I switched up a little. I'm saying it, but not a lot. I still think they have to do their due diligence, and despite all this talk on the air, I think it's still they want to do some checking of these guys out. So, but I will say that I think that I'll put Wilson at 55 and Sam at 44, and again I'll give Watson 1% just for the hell of it. But I hope I'm not wrong, but I don't see any way in hell they're going to give up the farm for Watson. So I think it's really.
Houston's not even answering the phone, and at a certain point, everyone's just moving on. That's the reason I'm kind of thinking that the Darnold thing is going to get done sooner rather than later. Because these teams, how long can they wait before it's like, let's try Plan B?
I agree, and I was talking to Ray about that. Let me ask you both a true and false question. True or false? There will be no Sam Darnold trade until the Jets know what is going to happen with Deshaun Watson.
Oh, I think that's false, definitely.
I agree. Okay, over under April 1st. If Darnold gets traded, pick the over or under, or before or later.
When are the pro days for those quarterbacks?
They're in mid to late March.
Okay.
Yeah,
If they've had the,
I think Fields is the 30th, Wilson's the 26th, and I think Lance is the 12th, something like that, all March. I
30th.
go under. I think that he'll be gone before April.
Ray?
I'm gonna, I won't be surprised if he's on, but I'm gonna go over only because if Fields isn't doing his day till the 30th and they want to truly check him out, then they'll wait till after they've seen Fields. If they're sold on Zach Wilson and after checking him out, it confirms him, then I could see it being before, but right now I'll say over, but I don't think it would be by
I
much.
think it's under. In fact, I think it's coming up. I think it might be right around the anniversary date when the Jets made that trade with the Colts to move up in the draft. And
Yeah,
that-
when was that? Like mid-March, right?
March 17th was on St. Patty's Day.
And that's also the day when free agency starts.
It does, yeah.
Oh, you guys are both convinced it's either Darnold or Wilson. I'm
Oh,
not.
yeah.
That's why I say that.
Yeah.
If you're convinced it's Wilson, if I was convinced for sure it's that they're going to go for Wilson, I'd say under two. But I think, despite all the chatter out there online, I think the Jets are. That's exactly why I thought you said that something about that Douglas told him he wanted to wait.
That's what he said, to evaluate the quarterback.
So if he's doing that, then unless he's only evaluating Wilson, then the 30th he won't have it done by the first.
But I'm agreeing with Ralph. I think
No.
I'm saying again, this has nothing to do with the Jets, but Dak Prescott just signed a contract. I mean, the dominoes are starting to fall, and I think that the longer they wait, I think more teams will be off the table. Ray, you're shaking your head. Like, what does that have to do with
Dak Prescott? He wasn't in the play anyway.
No, he wasn't. My
So
point was but that's a team that's
right, but
out.
they weren't going to trade for Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, if San Fran by some sudden shock signs somebody, that might put a shock into the Jets and get them moving. But I think anybody who is seriously interested in Sam, I think they'll wait. But like I say, you think it's that, and you're convinced it'd be Wilson. So, and if it is, then they'll have checked out Wilson well before the first, so that they'd have time to do that. If they want to wait for Fields, they won't get a deal done by the first.
Again, Ray, I don't want to redo last week's show. We got into a nice spirited discussion. I don't think they're going to count on the pro days as much as they're saying. I mean, they might. I could be wrong.
But I'm just saying, we don't know that. I understand that's what you think, but I don't know what they're thinking.
Right, I understand.
So, my
hunch is that they decided they're going to get one of those quarterbacks. And I think the pro days will be to decide between the college quarterbacks. I think they probably made their decision.
Well, I mean, if they're but I don't know if they're sold on getting rid of Sam 100% at this point. And that's the only reason I said over. If I thought they were sure, despite all the talk, I don't know if that's what's being said in the Jets.
Well, I just, to me, it's like when Joe Douglas was asked that question, all he had to say is, we're still evaluating the situation. For him to come out and say to the world, I'm answering the phone, he didn't have to say that.
No, he didn't. But I wonder if that was just kind of like a leftover stuff from how it all blew up with Adams. So he just reiterated it to make it sound like, see, I'm taking calls and I'm being the GM. I'm going to take calls. And so it won't be any, Jamal Adams kind of blow up from anybody.
All right.
Although I don't think Darnold would ever be that way.
We're going to move on to Ralph's question. It was a great question with the 49ers. But before we do, I just got to squeeze one thing in. One of my scenarios. You ready? And tell me how you think it would work or wouldn't work. The Jets move down from 2 to 8 with Carolina. The Jets get in 2021 an additional second and third. In 2022, a first and a second. With the 8th pick, the Jets pick Mac Jones, and he's on the same team along with Sam Darnold. Ray, what do you think about that scenario?
So you're saying they keep Sam?
Yes, at least for a year.
it wouldn't be my favorite scenario, but if they held on to Sam so that they could build a team that's more geared for Mac Jones, I'd probably be okay with it.
Ralph, what's your feeling on that?
I don't see them keeping two quarterbacks high profile like that. To me, that's trouble. I don't see it happening.
Okay.
Maybe that's a lot of nice draft picks to get back. I have
Well,
to
they're
say.
moving down like us.
I know they're moving down a lot.
But you got to figure if they were to do that, then Sam knows he's just there for to be a 1 year mentor or something till they think Mac Jones is ready to take it.
Don't forget these guys they played for a few things. They played for their pride. They played for the fans. They played for the coach. They played for money. So Sam would probably be playing for money. But I've heard people talk about that, putting more than one quarterback.
I've heard people talk about everything.
All right.
Including that.
Yeah, Ralph. Okay, let's get to your scenario now with the 49ers. Why don't you explain it?
All right, before we do that, I just want to say we didn't pick, other than, do you guys think San Francisco is his most likely landing spot? Because I want to give you top three. What are the other teams? What are your top three teams you think has his best chance of going to?
I thought number 2 was Chicago. 3, I wasn't as sure of. Maybe Denver, maybe Carolina.
I have San Francisco, and I have a tie with Washington and Chicago.
Oh, I forgot about Washington. Yeah.
That's what I have. What about you, Ralph?
I have San Francisco, Washington, and third, believe it or not, a big surprise, Seattle, with Russell Wilson going to Chicago.
There was talk about that.
Yeah.
Chicago. I don't know if they have enough capital.
I figure the Southern Cal connection was.
They said something the other day. I think it was yesterday. They were talking about that thing, and I didn't realize they said his dead cap space on Seattle is like $33 million. I don't know if they'll even bother trading him. I don't know.
Wow,
if that's true.
that's right. Yeah, it is.
They're not, I don't think they are going to trade him.
No.
All right, Ralph, tell us your 49ers.
Okay, well, I've heard the scenario, for people who have nothing better to do, like we, next month or two, that the Jets will trade Darnold, and in return, they would switch draft picks. San Francisco has the 12th pick in the first round. The Jets have Seattle's 23rd pick. So the Jets would go from 23 to 12. And my question is, would you rather go from 23 to 12, or would you rather just get San Francisco's second round pick, which is pick 43? So you keep 23 and 43 rather than going down to 12 and not getting that second round pick.
Ray, you go first on this one. Do you understand the question?
So this is in addition to trading Darnold, right? So
that's what it's for.
But give up Darnold, and this is what they get for picks.
Yeah, they either get flip the first round picks or get the second round pick.
So in other words, the choice is either moving up in the first round or getting an extra pick.
I get it. Now, I personally, I'd go with the 2 picks unless there was somebody I knew for sure at 12 that I really wanted.
Well, you don't know for sure.
Right.
The only thing, that would make that more attractive is if the Jets said, "Look, can we decide during the draft?"
Yeah.
If you do that, then that would be great.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Now, knowing I'd take the 2 picks.
Yeah.
You mean the extra pick?
Yeah. Well, yeah, 23 and 43 as opposed to just.
Yeah. No, I would move up.
Oh,
And again, I don't know the point value, but the reason being,
I'm not.
I think Joe Douglas could either get another stud, or he could leverage that into another second and maybe another pick.
That's a point I thought of too. Yeah, because initially I felt I want the extra pick, just because it's more fun in the draft. But that's true. He could trade back after he got the 12. That would be interesting.
Because the reason being, let's just take a scenario. Let's say he takes Zach Wilson, and then let's say he wants to take Slater or the tight end from Florida. What's his name? Kyle
Pitts.
He ain't going to be allowed at 12.
He probably won't. But let's say, let's say these guys, sometimes they have a trade in place.
Right.
Like he might go to Detroit and say, look, I want to trade this, but only if this happens. Because he did that with the offensive line last year. He had a trade in place, if you remember, to move up if certain guys weren't taken.
But you want him to move up further from 12. I was thinking of trading back.
No, trading back. But I'm
Yeah.
saying last year,
Usually you don't do the trade if the
look,
guy was available.
the one thing I see with Joe Douglas, I think he's a very good negotiator. And when you're a good negotiator, patience is very important. And I think he's very patient. And he's very open. And I'll give you an example. He's saying, why should I trade with the Patriots? I'm the general manager of the Jets. If it helps my team, I'm going to trade with anyone. So he did last year. And a couple of times he traded down and accumulated picks. So Ralph, that's a great question. Ray would get the extra second round pick. I would move up in the first round. And Ray, just so you know, I mean, Joe Douglas could take that second round pick and he could leverage that to like a couple of 3s and a 4.
Well,
it works too.
I mean, if you really think about it, if he wanted to move up for another, another first rounder, he could take that second round pick and 23 and move up with those two probably to close to 12 that way. But
By the way, if you want to know the point values for moving from 23 to 12, it's like 440 points. And the 43rd pick is like 470 points. So it's pretty close, which is 30 points, which is exactly what the Jets' 5th round pick is worth, 30 points.
Right.
It's negligible.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. All right, we're going to go back. Ralph, what was the last question you had? Revisit a trade.
Right. Everyone's saying the Deshaun Watson thing has never happened before, that a star quarterback in his prime was traded. But it actually did happen once when we were little boys. It was in 1967. You know who I'm talking about, Marty?
Ferguson?
No, it's not that. It was Fran Tarkenton.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
He went to the Giants. And the amazing thing is, the Minnesota was not that good, and the Giants were the worst team in the league. So it was kind of like this trade, and listen to what the Giants gave up. In the first year, in that year, they gave them 2 picks: their first round pick, which was the number 2 pick in the draft, and their second round pick, which was the number 28 pick in the draft, because there were less teams then.
Right.
So it's almost identical to what the Jets have right now.
Less teams and more rounds.
The next year, they gave up their first pick, which was the number 1 pick of the draft. Minnesota took Ron Yary. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Then a year after, they gave them their second pick. They got Ed White, who was a perpetual All-Pro guy. And they were the anchor for Minnesota, all those Super Bowl teams, their offensive line. Now,
the Super Bowl teams that were quarterbacked by Fran Tarkenton, right?
Except for the first one, which was quarterbacked by Joe Kapp, who couldn't even play for a college team today. He was so bad. But Minnesota had a strong team, which again is the theme is that when you have a great team is more important than a great quarterback. Right. But now to tell you what Tarkenton did with the Giants, because the Giants didn't have much talent and they didn't have any draft picks. He was there for 5 years. They had 1 season over 500, and they never made the playoffs.
Right.
He made them a mediocre team from a bad team because he was that good, but they never really did anything.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ralph. And you don't see a lot of these big trades really happening. I mean, the Detroit LA trade, that was an interesting trade. But even with all the movement with free agents today, there aren't a lot of quarterback trades. Okay.
No, back then, Sonny Jurgensen was traded straight up for Norm Snead. I remember that was and actually Minnesota wanted to trade Tarkenton for Jurgensen. Jurgensen was a great quarterback.
He was great. He was at the wrong time.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to the trivia question, and we're going to close this out because Ray's got to get up to Wolverine Company to scout out those 2 interior linemen, one on offense, one on defense. We're going to have a full report.
Yeah.
Ray. Ralph, he's going to sell to Pro Football Focus for the undisclosed sum.
Going to pro days, Ray, huh?
It's going to be like
how do you get invited?
10 Bitcoins or something. All right, go ahead, Ralph. Repeat the trivia question.
Okay, the 6 quarterbacks for the Jets have started 60 games or more. Namath, Todd, O'Brien, Testaverde, Pennington, and Sanchez. Of the 6, who had the best winning percentage?
I say, oh, Ray, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I say Vinny Testaverde.
I'm going to say, God, I was torn between 3 of them. I'm going to go with Ken O'Brien.
It is Testaverde.
It is. Okay.
And Ken O'Brien isn't even close. Second is Sanchez. Third is Pennington.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys know Mark Sanchez is very close to Sam Darnold.
Well, that's not a surprise. And he wants him to get out of town.
Yeah, he
So
wants
I'm a
to-
Mark Sanchez guy. Whereas Keyshawn wants him to stay. Another Trojan. Yeah.
Right. That's right. All right, we're going to close it up for Jets Rewind. Has been Marty Shupak, Ralph Sharega, and Ray Clifford. Ray, you have a wonderful trip, and
Thanks.
think of us when you're on your second or third stout.
Marty,
Until
you have
next-
a wonderful trip too. You're like the one going to the South Pole. You get there, you put the flag in, and you just turn around and go back.
I got to get my Bernie Sanders sticker, Ralph. That's why I'm going up.
I'd get my Pat Leahy sticker. He's actually the star of that state.
All right, until next time, this has been Jets Rewind.